The winter wind howled through the empty streets of Turin, Italy, as Cristiano Ronaldo drove home after a late-night training session. Snow had been falling steadily for hours, turning the usually bustling city into a silent wonderland. The football superstar had just finished an intensive practice, preparing for an upcoming Champions League match, but fate had different plans for him that evening. As his luxury SUV rounded a bend on the outskirts of the city, something caught his eye through the curtain of swirling snow. Two small figures huddled together by the roadside, their forms barely visible in the growing darkness. Ronaldo's instincts told him something wasn't right. Without hesitation, he slowed his vehicle, his heart racing as he realized these were children, two young boys who couldn't have been more than 10 years old. The Portuguese striker pulled over, his headlights illuminating the scene. The boys were shivering, their thin jackets offering little protection against the bitter cold. One boy supported the other, who appeared to have injured his ankle. Their faces, though marked with fear and exhaustion, lit up with recognition as Ronaldo stepped out of his car. "We got lost," the older boy explained through chattering teeth, speaking in broken English. They had been trying to walk home from their football practice when the snowstorm intensified, causing them to lose their way. Their phones had died, leaving them stranded in the freezing weather with no way to call for help. Ronaldo, a father himself, felt his heart twist at their plight. He remembered his own humble beginnings in Madeira, the challenges he had faced as a young boy with big dreams. Without thinking twice, he helped the boys into his heated car, wrapping them in the spare training blankets he always kept in his trunk. As they warmed up, the boys shared their story. They were brothers who lived in a nearby neighborhood and attended a local football academy. Their parents, hardworking restaurant owners, were probably sick with worry by now. The younger boy, nursing his swollen ankle, couldn't help but stare in awe at his rescuer, the very same player whose posters decorated his bedroom walls. Ronaldo listened intently, his mind already forming a plan. He knew the area well, having driven through it countless times on his way to and from training. The boys' description of their neighborhood sounded familiar, but the worsening weather made navigation treacherous. Still, he was determined to get them home safely. The footballer turned up the heat in his car and shared some energy bars and water he kept for post-training recovery. As he carefully maneuvered through the snow-covered streets, he shared stories from his own childhood, speaking about the importance of perseverance and looking out for one another. The boys listened, temporarily forgetting their ordeal as they absorbed every word from their idol. What started as a routine drive home had transformed into something much more meaningful. For Ronaldo, this wasn't about being a famous footballer or a global icon, it was about being human, about helping two young souls in need. The snow continued to fall outside, but inside the car, warmth and hope prevailed. Little did Ronaldo know that this was just the beginning of an evening that would test his resolve, showcase his compassion, and remind the world that true heroism often happens when the cameras aren't rolling. As he navigated through the treacherous conditions, the real challenge was yet to come, and the night would prove to be one that none of them would ever forget. The story began to spread through the local community, not through social media or news outlets, but through genuine word of mouth. It wasn't about publicity or fame, it was about a simple act of kindness that would ripple through lives in unexpected ways. As Ronaldo's SUV pressed on through the storm, the real adventure was just beginning to unfold. The journey through Turin's snow-covered streets became increasingly challenging as Ronaldo navigated his SUV through the worsening storm. The younger boy's ankle had begun to swell more visibly, and despite the warmth of the car, both children still showed signs of their earlier exposure to the cold. Ronaldo knew he needed to get them medical attention, but their primary goal was to reach their worried parents. As they drove, the older brother managed to remember more details about their neighborhood. He recalled a distinctive church with a blue door near their home, and a small pizzeria their parents often visited. These details sparked Ronaldo's memory. He had visited that same pizzeria shortly after moving to Turin, drawn by its authentic Italian charm and the warm hospitality of its owners. The realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. Could these be the children of the kind restaurant owners who had treated him like family rather than a celebrity? The couple had proudly shown him photos of their sons during his visit, but he hadn't made the connection until now. The coincidence seemed almost too perfect, but in that moment, Ronaldo understood that some things in life were meant to happen. The boys confirmed his suspicion when he mentioned the pizzeria's name, their faces lighting up with recognition. "That's our parents' restaurant," the older boy exclaimed, his voice filled with relief and renewed hope. The younger one added quietly, "Papa always talks about the day you came to eat there." Despite their situation, both boys couldn't help but smile at the connection. However, their journey was far from over. The snowstorm had transformed familiar streets into an unrecognizable white maze. Visibility was deteriorating by the minute, and even with his SUV's advanced handling, Ronaldo had to proceed with extreme caution. The wind howled outside, creating ghostly whistles as it swept through the empty streets. During their drive, Ronaldo noticed the younger boy wincing whenever the car hit a bump. Using his experience with sports injuries, he knew they needed to get the ankle checked properly. He made a quick decision to call his team's medical staff, knowing they would be discreet and professional. The doctor agreed to meet them once they located the boy's parents. As they turned onto another street, the older boy suddenly pressed his face against the window. Through the swirling snow, they could make out the dim blue door of the church he had mentioned. They were close now, but the final stretch proved to be the most challenging. The usually steep street leading to their neighborhood had become treacherously slick with ice. Ronaldo's years of discipline and focus came into play as he carefully maneuvered the vehicle. The boys held their breath, their small hands gripping the seats tightly. The SUV's tires fought for traction on the icy surface, but Ronaldo's steady hands kept them moving forward safely. In these tense moments, he shared words of encouragement, keeping the boys calm while maintaining his own concentration. The streets were eerily empty, most people having sought shelter from the storm. The only sounds were the howling wind and the steady hum of the SUV's engine. Through the windshield, they could see emergency vehicles in the distance, their lights creating a kaleidoscope of colors in the falling snow. It seemed they weren't the only ones dealing with the storm's challenges. Finally, they turned onto the boys' street, where several worried neighbors had gathered despite the weather. Word had spread about the missing children, and the community had mobilized to search for them. As Ronaldo's SUV appeared through the curtain of snow, people began pointing and rushing toward the vehicle. The boys' parents burst out of their house, their faces etched with hours of worry. When they recognized their sons in Ronaldo's car, their expressions transformed from anxiety to overwhelming relief. The mother ran forward, heedless of the snow, as Ronaldo helped the boys out of the vehicle. The younger boy limped slightly, supported by his brother and their unexpected rescuer. What happened next showed the true beauty of human connection. Instead of focusing on the famous footballer in their midst, the parents' entire attention was on their children. They wrapped the boys in tight embraces, tears freezing on their cheeks in the cold air. The father, still wearing his chef's apron, couldn't stop thanking Ronaldo, switching between Italian and broken English. The team doctor arrived shortly after, discreet and professional as promised. As he examined the younger boy's ankle in the warmth of their home, the mother insisted on preparing hot chocolate for everyone, her hands still shaking slightly as she moved around her kitchen. The father shared the story of their worry, how they had closed the restaurant early to search for their sons, and how the neighbors had immediately joined in to help. This wasn't just a story about a famous footballer anymore, it had become a testament to community spirit, to the way people come together in times of crisis. As Ronaldo sat in their modest living room, sipping hot chocolate and watching the family's relief and joy, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for being able to help. The walls around them were decorated with family photos, football posters, many featuring himself, and the simple treasures of a happy home. As the evening progressed in the family's warm home, the true impact of the day's events began to unfold. The team doctor confirmed that the younger boy's ankle was just sprained, not broken, a diagnosis that brought visible relief to everyone in the room. He provided proper wrapping and care instructions, all while trying to hide his own amazement at finding himself treating a patient in such unexpected circumstances. The house had become a hub of activity. Neighbors who had been searching brought over warm food and blankets, each stopping in their tracks when they realized who was sitting in the modest living room. But what struck everyone most wasn't Ronaldo's celebrity status, it was how naturally he blended into the scene, just another concerned member of the community who had helped bring 2 lost children home. The boy's mother, unable to contain her hospitality despite the circumstances, insisted on cooking something for Ronaldo. "It's the least we can do," she said in Italian, her hands already busy in the kitchen. The aroma of authentic Italian cooking soon filled the house, mixing with the lingering scent of hot chocolate and the warmth of relief. While she cooked, the father shared photos of the boys' football journey. Training sessions, local matches, and dreams of following in their hero's footsteps, dreams that now seemed more tangible than ever. Ronaldo listened intently, occasionally offering advice about dedication and perseverance, the same values that had shaped his own journey from Madeira to global stardom. The older boy, now wrapped in a warm blanket, couldn't help but ask Ronaldo about his training routines. "How many hours do you practice each day?" he questioned, his eyes wide with curiosity. Ronaldo shared insights about his disciplined lifestyle, but emphasized something more important. "The best training comes from here," he said, pointing to his heart. "When you play with passion and purpose, that's what makes the difference." Outside, the storm began to ease, as if nature itself was acknowledging that its part in this story was complete. The snow continued to fall, but gentler now, adding to the peaceful atmosphere that had settled over the home. The emergency vehicles could be heard in the distance, their sirens a reminder of the night's dangers and the fortune of this happy ending. The younger boy, his ankle properly wrapped, had begun to doze off on the couch, exhausted from the ordeal. His brother sat protectively nearby, still processing the incredible turn their misadventure had taken. Their parents watched them with a mixture of relief and lingering concern, the kind that only parents can understand. As the evening wore on, more stories emerged. The father revealed how they had moved to Turin 5 years ago, chasing their dream of owning their own restaurant. The mother spoke about the challenges of raising 2 football-obsessed boys in a new city, her eyes twinkling with pride as she described their dedication to the sport. Ronaldo shared his own experiences of moving to a new country as a young player, the difficulties of adaptation, and the importance of family support. His words carried special weight in this setting, speaking not as a global superstar but as someone who understood the immigrant experience, the power of dreams, and the strength of family bonds. The local news had gotten wind of the story, and reporters had begun gathering outside despite the weather. But inside the warm house, a different kind of story was unfolding, one about human connection, community, and the unexpected ways lives intersect. Ronaldo's security team, who had been discreetly contacted, helped keep the media at bay, preserving the intimate nature of the evening. The boy's father stepped out briefly to address the gathering crowd, politely asking for privacy. When he returned, he carried with him a stack of letters, notes from neighbors expressing their relief and joy at the boy's safe return. Each letter told a story of community solidarity, of people from different backgrounds coming together in a time of need. As the evening meal was served, the dining table became more than just a place to eat. It transformed into a symbol of unity, where a global sports icon shared a simple family dinner, where worried parents could finally relax, and where 2 young boys learned firsthand about the power of kindness and community. Ronaldo's phone buzzed occasionally with messages from teammates who had heard about the incident, but he kept it aside, fully present in this moment. His own experiences as a father made him understand the profound relief the parents were feeling, and he wanted to ensure they had this time to process and celebrate their children's safe return. The younger boy had woken up for dinner, his initial shyness around his idol now replaced with comfortable familiarity. He proudly showed Ronaldo his school football team photo, pointing out his position as a forward. "Just like you," he said with a grin, causing everyone at the table to smile. This simple moment captured the essence of the evening, the way extraordinary circumstances had created an intimate, almost ordinary family scene. As dinner concluded, the atmosphere in the house had transformed from one of relief to celebration. The mother's cooking had worked its magic, creating a comfortable environment where even Ronaldo found himself sharing stories he rarely told in public. He spoke about his own childhood in Madeira, about the times when his family had struggled, and how those experiences shaped his character. The conversation shifted when the father brought out a worn football from behind the restaurant counter, the boys' first proper football, bought when they first moved to Turin. The leather was scuffed, the stitching worn, but it carried countless memories of backyard practices and dreams of greatness. Ronaldo held the ball with reverence, understanding its significance as more than just a toy but a symbol of hope and aspiration. "This reminds me of my first real football," Ronaldo said, turning the ball in his hands. "I would sleep with it every night, dreaming of playing in big stadiums." The boys listened intently, their eyes fixed on their hero who suddenly seemed more relatable than ever. The older boy shared how they too practiced every day in the small courtyard behind their restaurant, using empty bottles as goal posts. The storm outside had finally settled into a gentle snowfall, creating a peaceful backdrop to their gathering. Through the window, they could see neighbors still checking in, their concerned faces melting into smiles when they learned everyone was safe. The community's response had transformed a frightening situation into a testament of human kindness. The team doctor, who had stayed to monitor the younger boy's ankle, shared his own observations about Ronaldo's dedication to helping others. He recalled numerous instances where the striker had gone out of his way to assist teammates, staff members, and young fans, always away from the media spotlight. These stories painted a picture of a man whose greatness extended far beyond the football field. As the evening progressed, the boy's father retrieved something special from their restaurant, an old photograph from the day Ronaldo had first visited their pizzeria. In it, a newly arrived Ronaldo stood with the family, everyone smiling broadly. The photo had been proudly displayed in their restaurant ever since, inspiring countless conversations with customers about dreams and perseverance. The younger boy, his ankle feeling better after the doctor's treatment, gathered enough courage to ask Ronaldo if he would sign their worn football. Instead of just signing it, Ronaldo took time to write a personal message to each boy, emphasizing the importance of family, hard work, and never giving up on dreams. The moment was made more special by its intimacy, no cameras, no press, just genuine human connection. Local authorities had called to check on the situation, and upon learning that everyone was safe, they shared an important warning: more families were reporting children stranded due to the unexpected storm. Without hesitation, Ronaldo offered his help to the search efforts, coordinating with his security team to assist other families in need. The boy's mother, hearing this, quickly packed some of her homemade food for the rescue workers. Her kitchen, which had earlier been a place of worried waiting, now became a hub of activity as she prepared warm meals for those still out in the cold. The father joined in, firing up the restaurant's ovens to make pizzas for the emergency responders. Ronaldo's presence had inadvertently turned their home into an impromptu command center for local relief efforts. His celebrity status, combined with the family's connection to the community through their restaurant, created a unique bridge between official rescue services and local volunteers. Phone calls were made, plans coordinated, and resources organized, all from the warmth of the family's living room. The boys watched in amazement as their simple home transformed into the heart of a community-wide effort. Their own scary experience had sparked a chain reaction of goodwill that was now helping others in similar situations. The older boy, inspired by the events unfolding around him, asked how he could help. Ronaldo smiled, recognizing the same spirit of service he tried to instill in his own children. Together, they began mapping out the neighborhoods where children might have been caught in the storm after various after-school activities. The boys' knowledge of local football training grounds, combined with Ronaldo's resources and the community's mobilization, created an effective search strategy. Their personal experience became valuable insight for helping others. The younger boy, though confined to the couch with his wrapped ankle, contributed by helping his mother organize the food packages and keeping track of the areas already checked by rescue teams. His father's restaurant connections proved invaluable, as other local business owners joined the effort, offering their spaces as warm shelters for search teams and any stranded families they found. What had started as one football superstar's chance encounter with two stranded boys had blossomed into something much larger, a demonstration of how crisis can bring out the best in people, regardless of their status or background. The evening had become a masterclass in community service, led by example rather than obligation. As the night deepened, news arrived of another group of children found safe, thanks to the coordinated rescue efforts. The boys' living room had become an unexpected center of hope, with Ronaldo's presence adding a surreal element to an already extraordinary evening. The football star had seamlessly transitioned from rescuer to community organizer, his competitive spirit now channeled into ensuring every stranded child made it home safely. The younger boy's ankle had improved enough for him to move around carefully, and he insisted on helping his mother prepare more hot drinks for the rescue workers. His brother had taken on the role of junior coordinator, his intimate knowledge of local football training spots proving invaluable to the search teams. Their frightening experience had transformed them from victims into active participants in helping others. Ronaldo's phone lit up with messages from his Juventus teammates, offering their help. Soon, several players arrived at the house, bringing additional supplies and vehicles better suited for the snowy conditions. The sight of multiple football stars in their modest home left the boys speechless, but what impressed them most was how these famous athletes immediately rolled up their sleeves to help, following Ronaldo's example. The mother's kitchen had evolved into a full-scale operation, with the wonderful aroma of Italian cooking providing comfort to cold and tired rescue workers. The father's pizzeria was now running at full capacity, with volunteer staff helping to prepare food for everyone involved in the search efforts. The small restaurant had become a symbol of community resilience, its warm lights a beacon in the snowy night. Local television crews had gathered outside, but instead of focusing on Ronaldo's presence, they began reporting on the remarkable community response to the crisis. The story had shifted from being about a celebrity rescue to a testament of neighborhood solidarity. Ronaldo insisted that any interviews should highlight the collective effort rather than his individual role. The boys' parents watched with pride as their sons took active roles in the rescue operation. The younger boy, despite his injury, organized the incoming supplies with careful attention, while his brother helped create detailed maps of the areas still to be searched. Their earlier trauma had given way to a sense of purpose, showing how adversity could spark unexpected growth. A touching moment occurred when an elderly neighbor arrived with hand-knitted scarves for the rescue teams. She had heard about the efforts and wanted to contribute in her own way. Ronaldo accepted his scarf with genuine gratitude, immediately wrapping it around his neck despite its humble appearance. This simple gesture spoke volumes about the equal value of every contribution, no matter how small. The team doctor, who had stayed to monitor the younger boy's ankle, began treating other minor injuries suffered by rescue workers in the field. The living room doubled as a first aid station, with the coffee table now covered with medical supplies instead of the usual family photos and magazines. The boys watched in fascination as their home transformed into a hub of community service. As midnight approached, more good news arrived. All reported missing children had been found and returned safely to their families. The coordination between Ronaldo's resources, local authorities, and community volunteers had proved remarkably effective. What could have been a night of multiple tragedies had become a story of successful collaboration and community spirit. The father received numerous calls from other restaurant owners in the area, all offering to keep their establishments open as warm shelters. The city's food delivery services had joined in, volunteering their drivers to transport supplies and help search teams navigate the snowy streets. The crisis had revealed the hidden strengths of their community. Ronaldo shared stories with the rescue teams during their breaks, not about his football achievements, but about the importance of teamwork and community. He spoke about how his own success had always been supported by others, from his family to his teammates, and how tonight proved that the same principle applied to helping others in need. The boy's mother noticed how the younger boy was fighting sleep, determined to stay involved in the rescue efforts. She prepared a small bed on the couch, allowing him to rest while still feeling part of the action. His brother sat nearby, updating the search coordination maps while occasionally glancing at his sleeping sibling with protective care. Throughout the night, more neighbors arrived with thermoses of coffee, warm blankets, and offers to help. Each person who entered the house did a double take at seeing Ronaldo and his teammates, but quickly focused on the task at hand. The celebrity factor had been overshadowed by the more important mission of community safety. The local police chief arrived to personally thank everyone involved. He was visibly moved by the sight of professional athletes working alongside local volunteers, all focused on the common goal of helping others. In his years of service, he had never seen such a spontaneous and effective community response to a crisis. What made this night truly special wasn't just the successful rescues or the presence of football stars, it was the way it revealed the underlying connections that bound their community together. The boys' frightening experience had triggered a chain reaction of kindness that transcended social barriers and brought out the best in everyone involved. As the early hours of the morning approached, the rescue operation began winding down. The snow had stopped falling, leaving behind a pristine white blanket that covered Turin streets. Inside the family's home, exhausted but satisfied rescue workers shared cups of coffee and swapped stories about the night's events. Ronaldo sat among them, his designer clothes slightly rumpled, the hand-knitted scarf still around his neck. The successful rescue operation had created unexpected bonds between people who might never have met otherwise. Professional football players chatted with local shopkeepers, emergency workers shared meals with neighborhood volunteers, and at the center of it all were two young boys who had unknowingly sparked this remarkable chain of events. The younger boy had woken up from his brief rest on the couch, his ankle much improved thanks to the doctor's care. He watched in quiet amazement as his hero, Ronaldo, helped his mother distribute more hot drinks to the rescue workers. The sight of a global superstar performing such simple tasks with genuine humility left a lasting impression on everyone present. The father had just returned from his restaurant, where the last batch of pizzas had been prepared for the remaining rescue teams. His eyes were tired but bright with pride as he looked around his living room. What started as one of the most frightening nights of his life had transformed into an extraordinary demonstration of community spirit. Local journalists who had been covering the story throughout the night approached Ronaldo for comments. Instead of taking center stage, he guided them toward the true heroes, the community members who had mobilized so quickly to help others. He spoke about the family's hospitality, the neighbors' immediate response, and how the boys' knowledge of local areas had proved crucial to the rescue efforts. The older boy, still at his makeshift coordination station, had created a detailed map marking all the successful rescues. His father looked at it with tears in his eyes, remembering how just hours ago, he had been frantically searching for his own sons. Now, his child was helping ensure other families wouldn't experience the same fear. Ronaldo's teammates, who had arrived to help earlier in the night, shared their own perspectives on the evening's events. They spoke about how this experience had changed their view of Turin, from a city where they played football to a community they felt truly part of. One player even suggested organizing regular community outreach programs, inspired by the night's spontaneous collaboration. The mother, despite her exhaustion, continued to move through the house with warm drinks and snacks, refusing all offers of help. For her, this act of hosting had become a way of giving back to the community that had mobilized to help find her sons. Every time she passed the younger boy on the couch, she would gently touch his head, as if reassuring herself that he was really there. As dawn approached, the team doctor performed a final check on the younger boy's ankle. The swelling had significantly decreased, though he recommended rest for the next few days. The boy was more concerned about missing football practice, which made everyone laugh, his passion for the sport undimmed by the night's adventures. The police chief returned with news that all search teams had been accounted for and no further emergencies were reported. He presented the family with an official commendation for their role in coordinating the community response. The boys beamed with pride as their parents accepted the recognition, understanding that their frightening experience had led to something truly special. Ronaldo's security team, who had been quietly managing the situation outside, reported that the crowd had finally dispersed. The morning light revealed the full extent of the snowfall, but also showed cleared paths where rescue teams and volunteers had worked through the night. Their footprints in the snow told a story of dedication and community spirit. The boy's father received numerous messages from other restaurant owners in Turin, suggesting a network of designated safe spaces for children throughout the city. What had started as a crisis was evolving into a lasting initiative to make their community safer. The idea quickly gained support from local authorities and business owners alike. The older boy, fighting exhaustion, showed Ronaldo his final update to the rescue coordination map. The football star studied it carefully, praising the boy's attention to detail and organizational skills. This simple interaction between a global icon and a young fan captured the essence of the night, how extraordinary circumstances had broken down barriers and created genuine connections. As morning light began filtering through the windows, Ronaldo shared a quiet moment with the family. He spoke about how this night had reminded him of his own journey, how success wasn't just about individual achievement, but about the community that supports and lifts each other up. The boys listened intently, understanding that they had been part of something much bigger than a simple rescue. The mother pulled out her phone to show Ronaldo something, a photo she had taken earlier in the night without anyone noticing. It captured the moment when both her sons were working together at the coordination station, their faces focused and determined. The image perfectly represented their transformation from being victims of circumstance to active participants in helping others. As the morning sun cast its golden light across Turin's snow-covered landscape, the extraordinary night began drawing to a close. The family's home, which had served as an impromptu rescue center, slowly returned to its normal state, though the energy of the night's events still lingered in the air. Ronaldo, still wearing the elderly neighbor's hand-knitted scarf, prepared to take his leave. Before departing, Ronaldo had one final surprise for the family. He reached into his training bag and pulled out 2 Juventus jerseys, not the kind available in shops, but the ones he actually wore in matches. He had planned to take them home for cleaning but felt they belonged here instead. The boys watched in awe as he carefully signed each jersey, adding a personal message about courage and community spirit. The younger boy, his ankle now wrapped in a proper support bandage, stood with his brother as they held their jerseys. Their eyes shone not just with the excitement of receiving such precious gifts, but with the deeper understanding of what the night had taught them about humanity, responsibility, and the power of community. These weren't just soccer jerseys anymore, they were symbols of an extraordinary experience that had changed their lives. The father, still in his chef's apron from the overnight pizza-making marathon, struggled to find the right words to thank Ronaldo. But the football star stopped him mid-sentence, saying, "Your family has given me much more than I could ever give you. You've reminded me of what really matters in life." He spoke about how the night had touched him deeply, bringing back memories of his own childhood and the community that had supported his dreams. The mother, who had finally sat down to rest after hours of taking care of everyone, shared her own reflection. She spoke about how their move to Turin had sometimes felt overwhelming, being far from their original home, but how this night had shown them that they had built something special here, not just a business, but a place in the community's heart. Local news crews had gathered outside again, hoping to capture the conclusion of this remarkable story. Instead of giving a formal interview, Ronaldo invited them inside to document something more meaningful, the moment when the family's restaurant regulars started arriving with breakfast for everyone who had helped overnight. It was a simple act that perfectly captured the spirit of reciprocity that had defined the entire experience. The police chief made one final appearance, this time with an official proposal. Inspired by the night's events, the city wanted to establish a formal community safety network, with local businesses serving as safe havens for children in need. The family's restaurant would be the first official member of this network, their experience serving as a model for others to follow. The boy's father grabbed his well-worn recipe book and made an impromptu announcement. He would create a new pizza named the Community Spirit, with a portion of its proceeds going to support local children's safety programs. Ronaldo immediately ordered the first one, insisting on paying full price despite the family's protests. "Some things are worth more than money," he said with a warm smile. The older boy, who had spent the night coordinating rescue efforts, presented Ronaldo with something unexpected, the detailed map he had created during the operations, complete with all the locations and notes from the successful rescues. "For when you need to remember this night," he said quietly. Ronaldo carefully folded the map and placed it in his wallet, treating it with the same reverence he would a championship medal. As the morning progressed, more families who had been helped during the night began arriving to express their gratitude. Each brought their own story of how the community's response had touched them. One mother spoke through tears about how her daughter had been found thanks to the boy's knowledge of local training spots. Another family brought homemade pastries, adding to the growing breakfast gathering. The team doctor, gathering his medical supplies, shared his own observation. In all his years of sports medicine, he had never seen an injury bring people together quite like this. The younger boy's sprained ankle had set in motion a chain of events that strengthened an entire community's bonds. Sometimes, he reflected, healing happens in ways that go far beyond the physical. Ronaldo's teammates who had helped during the night returned one last time, but not for any official reason. They simply wanted to share in this final moment, to be part of the community rather than celebrities. They sat with everyone else, sharing breakfast and swapping stories about the night's events, their status as football stars secondary to their role as community members. Before leaving, Ronaldo made a promise, not for publicity or show, but a genuine commitment to the community. He would work with his foundation to support the new safety network, ensuring that what started as a response to crisis would become a lasting force for good in Turin. But more importantly, he promised to return to the family's restaurant, not as a celebrity, but as a friend. The younger boy, fighting back tears, hugged Ronaldo one last time. "Thank you for finding us," he said simply. Ronaldo knelt down to eye level with him and replied, "No, thank you for helping me find something more important, the true meaning of community." The boy might not have fully understood the depth of these words yet, but someday he would. As Ronaldo finally prepared to leave, the morning sun had fully risen over Turin, making the snow-covered city glisten like diamonds. The night's footprints in the snow would soon melt away, but the impressions left on hearts and minds would remain forever. This wasn't just a story about a famous footballer rescuing two boys, it was a testament to the extraordinary things that can happen when people come together to help others. The family stood in their doorway, watching as Ronaldo's car disappeared into the bright morning light. They were tired but fulfilled, knowing that what had started as their personal crisis had transformed into something much larger and more meaningful. The boys clutched their signed jerseys, their father held their mother close, and in that moment, they understood that sometimes the most beautiful stories come from the most unexpected circumstances.